happy Halloween to y'all. Yeah, I'm like being witchetty witch here. Um, anyway, no tricks here, but I want to talk a little bit about these treats that may or may not be coming your way starting today. And it's really interesting how our culture has really embodied sugar as being a treat. Like of course, we all know why, right? It's so yummy and sweet and whatnot. But the reality is, sugar is anything but a treat for your body. It's, for one thing, it's one of the most addictive substances on the planet. And yeah, so if you are like me and you have a sweet tooth, you can't really blame yourself for wanting more of it because it's so yummy and your brain lights up and whatnot. But it's really, we almost have to move in away from thinking them as treats because they wreak havoc on your body. And one thing that I recently found out, so I've always had a sweet tooth, and this was one of my big red flags early on when I was doing my cancer research after my first breast cancer in in 2012. And that was, I went back to my oncologist and I said, gosh, I've read, sugar feeds cancer. And do I really need to cut back, or what's the story with this? And she really didn't know anything about it, is the bottom line, and said, no, it's fine, as long as you're not going overboard. And my usual motto is everything in moderation, and I still believe that to some extent. However, the more I get into it, there's certain things you research and you listen to different people, and they all say the same thing. You're like, okay, there's really something to this, right? And there really is a connection, unfortunately. And it's not just the sugar that we think of in terms of candy, right? It's not just, that's the worst. Processed white sugar candy is absolutely the worst, of course. But, a lot of our, what we might consider healthy foods are also sugar, and they turn to sugars, right? So carbohydrates and even things like white potatoes and, a lot of our pastas and rice and foods that you don't maybe even think of as being sugary, they also feed cancer. So that's why you really got to be careful and, really be aware of this stuff. One thing I wanted to share with you is my doctor has not been checking my hemoglobin 1C levels, and I recently needed to get it checked for insurance purposes. And lo and behold, yikes, I got the bewitching news, the bad news that I am pre-diabetic. So I was like, what? But this is not unheard of. Like, insulin resistance in this country is rising like at a pretty rapid rate. And when you become insulin resistant, the next thing that happens is you become diabetic. And nobody wants that. We certainly don't want to go from breast cancer to diabetes. So I wanted to just, warn you that sugar it's really wreaks havoc on your body in so many ways. Um, for children, it causes hyperactivity and whatnot. And then your immune system also like plummets, when you have sugar. So it's also really interesting. I used to do this when I taught about families and keeping kids well. We often think, oh, your kid's not feeling well, and so we give them treats or sugar or whatever. But actually, that's the worst thing to do when they're sick, right? Because it actually hinders our immune system. It sort of like puts it to sleep. So you really do want to think about it, and beware. And like again, that's the thing is, just with the candy and whatnot. I would say, if you're recovering from breast cancer, yeah, really try to stay away from it altogether. I mean, there's the other extreme of it, which is, there's a lot of sugar in fruits, which I love as well. And so if you're juicing the fruits, whatever, that's a lot of sugar in your bloodstream that could have the same effect. So of course the really evil sugars are the processed sugars, or like never eat anything with high fructose corn syrup in it. That is the worst. It's not even like real sugar. That's really bad. But so I always say baby steps, right? So if you're a sugar addict, you want to start with some of those things you can control, like not eating a lot of candy. Yikes. I know it's really hard this time of year because it's going to be everywhere now, right? There'll be candy bowls out everywhere. But I just wanted to pop in and let you know there is a really big connection. and sugar in general is just wreaking havoc on our health in so many ways, not just breast cancer, but and of course it also fuels things like obesity, and obesity is linked to breast cancer. So it comes at it from a lot of different directions, but the end all result is the same. If you really want to treat, as I recommend, go for that dark chocolate, right? That's actually got some goodness to it. So go for the dark chocolate or the chocolate avocado mousse, where you put cacao powder in with with avocados. Delicious, and also satisfies that want to treat instinct. So I do want you to have a very happy Halloween, but I didn't want you to I wanted to warn you before you start overindulging in all the sweets of the season. That is really not a good idea. So let's try to, feed, as they say, feed our bodies, not the cancer. So that's my tip on that. And I also wanted to say my Breast Health Empowerment membership, the doors are open and it's starting this week. So join us. It is extraordinarily low right now, priced, so that everyone can join and experience this. So if you have any questions about it, contact me. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. And I look forward to checking in with you again real soon. Okay, take care. Have a fun day.